No one at Southside Grill knew that a single quiet moment would upend 3 lives forever. A billionaire drifted into sleep in a dim VIP room. A little boy watched from the shadows, and one small act of kindness set off a chain reaction no one could have predicted. This is the night a child's heart cracked open a guarded soul and changed everything. The dinner rush had barely started, yet the kitchen at Southside Grill already felt like a furnace. Steam hissed from metal pans, knives clattered against cutting boards, and the fluorescent lights above flickered with a tired hum. Marcus Reed moved quietly through the narrow aisles, sweeping crumbs from the prep counter the way he'd done 1,000 times before. He kept his head low, shoulders drawn inward as if hoping the world might forget he was there, and it usually did, except when it wanted someone to blame. Across the room, his 8-year-old son, Eli, sat on an overturned milk crate tucked between 2 storage shelves. The boy hugged a chipped metal toy car against his chest, rubbing the faded paint with a thumb worn small from years of habit. It was the last thing Eli had from his father, a man Marcus didn't talk about much because the memory hurt more than the silence. But Eli carried that toy everywhere, as if holding onto it kept something alive. "Reed!" the manager barked from the doorway, his voice slicing through the noise like a blade. "Keep the kid hidden. Tonight isn't the night for distractions." Marcus nodded quickly. It didn't matter that the boy wasn't bothering anyone. Didn't matter that the school had shut down early because of a power outage, so leaving Marcus no choice but to bring him. All that mattered was the tone, the one people used when they pretended authority but meant judgment. The manager crossed his arms. "We're hosting someone important tonight. Billionaire. Old money. Don't let him see the wrong image when he walks in, understand?" Marcus didn't answer. He simply lowered his eyes again, because answering never changed anything. He felt Eli watching him, felt the boy's quiet worry settle on him like dust. Marcus forced a tired smile and motioned for Eli to stay still. "We'll be all right," he whispered, though he wasn't sure he believed it. Southside Grill wasn't fancy, just a mid-tier restaurant trying too hard to be impressive. But tonight was different. Word had spread fast among the staff. A wealthy man wanted a private dinner. Some said he was a philanthropist, and others claimed he hadn't been seen in public for months. And the manager, eager to impress, had made it clear anyone who didn't look the part should stay invisible. Marcus had become very good at being invisible. He wiped down the counter again, even though it was already spotless, his shoulders tensing each time the manager glanced his way. The smell of fried chicken and collard greens drifted through the air, warm and familiar. Yet Marcus felt none of its comfort. Instead, he felt the old ache, the one that came from being underestimated his whole life, from being told, in 1,000 subtle ways, that men like him were meant to stay in the shadows. Eli hugged his toy car tighter and whispered, "Daddy, are we in trouble?" "No, baby," Marcus said softly. "You just stay right there, stay quiet. Well, we're almost done." But they were not almost done. A quiet hush swept through the kitchen as a server ran in, breathless. "He's here," she whispered dramatically. "The billionaire. He's older than I thought, and he doesn't look too great." The manager straightened his tie, smoothed his shirt, and threw Marcus a sharp warning look. "You two don't draw attention. Don't even breathe wrong." Marcus felt something inside him pinch. Not anger. Not yet. Something smaller, colder. The familiar sting of being looked at like a risk rather than a man. Outside the kitchen door, the sounds of chairs moving and respectful greetings floated in. Someone important had definitely arrived. Eli peeked through a crack in the door, eyes wide with curiosity. "Daddy, who is he?" Marcus didn't know what to say. And how do you explain to a child that some people walk into a room and suddenly everyone else becomes unimportant? How do you explain that some men are admired, while others No matter how hard they work, no matter how kind they are brushed aside. He rested a gentle hand on Eli's back. "Just someone passing through," he murmured. "He won't notice us." But destiny had its own plans, because out in the dimly lit VIP room, an exhausted old billionaire lowered himself into a leather chair, closed his eyes, and drifted into what looked like a deep sleep. And fate, with all its strange humor, had placed him just a few feet from the crack in the kitchen door where Eli now stared, his small fingers curling around the frame. Marcus didn't know it yet. Neither did the manager. Not even the billionaire himself. But by the end of the night, the one pair of eyes this powerful man would notice belonged to the child no one thought should be seen. The dining room lights dimmed to a warm amber glow, soft enough to flatter the space yet bright enough to reveal every flaw of the man being ushered inside. Donovan Hale moved slowly, supported by a polished cane and a server who seemed terrified of misstepping. His silver hair was combed neatly, but his shoulders sagged with the weight of years and something heavier, loneliness. His breath came shallow, strained, as if each inhale had to be bargained with. Even from the kitchen, Marcus could hear the faint rasp cutting through the quiet. The manager practically bowed. "Mr. Hale, sir, please let us know if you need anything at all." Donovan waved him off, lowering himself into the cushioned leather chair in the VIP room, an isolated corner meant for wealthy patrons who didn't want to see or be seen. The server backed away. The manager lingered, eager for approval, but Donovan didn't offer a word. His eyes fluttered, his cane slipped slightly against the table, and he exhaled a long, weary breath. Then, he stopped moving. His chin sank toward his chest. His fingers loosened around the armrest. At first it looked like he had paused to rest. Then the manager's expression shifted, panic mixed with hope that the old man wasn't collapsing in his restaurant. But after a moment, Donovan's breathing settled into a slow, steady rhythm. He wasn't unconscious. He was simply asleep. Deeply, unmistakably asleep. The manager exhaled hard and signaled for everyone to stay quiet. "Don't wake him," he hissed. "If he wants to nap here, let him nap. Just keep the staff out of sight until he eats." A stack of bills, crisp, clean, unmistakably large, peeked from an open leather wallet on the table beside the old man. A few had slipped out, drifting onto the glossy wooden floor like fallen leaves. No one dared touch them, not even the manager. They remained scattered like bait no one acknowledged. Marcus felt Eli leaning at the edge of his crate seat, his small body drawn forward by innocent curiosity. Through the cracked kitchen door, the boy had a clear line of sight into the VIP room. His eyes widened at the old man with the cane, the heavy coat, the tired face, and the money. "Daddy," Eli whispered, tugging lightly on Marcus's sleeve. "He looks sick." Marcus swallowed. "Don't stare, baby. I'll give him his privacy." "But he's alone." Marcus hesitated. Something in the boy's voice, soft, concerned, unafraid, cut through the noise of clanging pans and sizzling skillets. Eli didn't see a billionaire, didn't see a man who could change their lives with the flick of a pen. He saw someone who looked cold, someone who looked tired, someone who needed kindness. Marcus knelt beside him. "Some people like to be alone," he whispered, "especially men like him." Eli frowned, clutching his metal toy car tighter. "Why?" Marcus didn't know how to answer. How do you explain that money builds walls instead of homes? That power attracts everyone but love? That old age feels heavier when there's no one to lean on? Before he could respond, a server rushed behind them. "Plate up the cornbread. Oh, and nobody breathe wrong around the VIP room." The hustle of the kitchen surged again, drowning the moment. Yet Eli kept staring. From his angle, Marcus saw only the faint outline of Donovan through the crack in the door. But Eli saw more. He saw the slight tremor in the man's hand, saw how the collar of his coat lifted with each shallow breath, saw how the scattered bills stirred in the faint breeze each time someone walked by, like they were begging to slip farther away. "Daddy, his money's falling." "Not our business," Marcus said quickly, too quickly. The last thing he needed was Eli going near that room. But the boy stayed fixated, his little brow creased. "What if it gets lost?" "Eli," Marcus murmured, "listen to me." A chair scraped loudly in the kitchen, causing the manager to snap his head back toward them. I said quiet!" he barked. His gaze zeroed in on Marcus. "Control your kid." The words stung more than they should have. Control your kid. As if Eli were a problem. As if he were anything other than a child trying to do right in a world that rarely rewarded it. Marcus placed a gentle hand on his son's shoulder. "Just stay with me, okay? Please." He turned his back for only a second, to grab a towel, to wipe down a counter, to do something the manager couldn't criticize. But when he turned again, Eli was no longer on the crate. The crate sat empty, toy car missing. Marcus's heart plummeted. No. No, no, no. He moved toward the kitchen door, pushing it gently open. The VIP room stretched before him, quiet, dimly lit, the amber glow soft against the burgundy leather of the sleeping billionaire. And there, and standing only a few feet from Donovan's chair, was Eli Reed. Small, frail, brave in the way only children can be. Eli took one careful step closer to the scattered bills on the floor. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. He didn't shout. Shouting would draw attention, would ruin them, would get them thrown out before the night even started. So he whispered a desperate, trembling, "Eli, baby, no." But Eli didn't hear him. The boy knelt down beside the old man, unaware that he had just stepped into the center of a moment that would change every life in that room. Every beat of the restaurant seemed to slow, as if the universe itself were holding its breath, watching the tiniest hands reach for the edges of something far bigger, something neither Marcus nor the manager nor the billionaire himself could possibly foresee. Not yet, but not until the night revealed what kindness can do when no one is watching. For a moment, time in the VIP room seemed to fold into silence. The clatter of dishes and sizzling pans in the kitchen faded, replaced by the faint hum of the overhead lights and the shallow breaths of an old man sleeping in a chair meant for someone far stronger. Donovan Hale looked impossibly fragile, his cane angled against the table, his hands resting loosely on his lap, his coat pulled too thin over a chest that rose and fell unevenly. And there, barefoot on the polished floor, was Eli Reed. The boy knelt with the innocent precision of someone handling treasure. Not treasure he wanted, but treasure he feared might be lost. His small fingers reached for the first bill, smoothing the corner gently before placing it closer to the open wallet on the table. As he moved slowly, carefully, almost reverently, as though he believed the money itself might wake the billionaire if he handled it wrong. Marcus watched from the doorway, nearly breathless. His palms were sweating, and his heart thudded painfully against his ribs. One wrong move, one misunderstanding, and everything could unravel. He'd been accused of worse things for far less. He'd lost jobs, dignity, and nights of sleep after being judged by people who saw only the color of his skin and not the man he tried every day to be. "Eli," Marcus whispered, but his voice didn't carry far enough to stop the boy. Eli lifted another bill and placed it on the table beside the first. His breath fogged a faint patch on the cool wood surface. Then his eyes drifted toward the old man's legs, thin beneath the fabric, the skin pale, and almost translucent in the amber light. A shiver ran through Donovan's frame, barely noticeable, but Eli saw it. "He's cold," the boy murmured softly, his voice a small echo swallowed by the room. Marcus gripped the doorframe. Baby, please. Come back." But Eli rose to his feet, his little hands instinctively reaching for the zipper of his hoodie. It was an old thing, once bright red, now faded to a washed-out rose. The sleeves were frayed, the hood stretched from years of pulling it tight against the wind. It was one of the only warm pieces of clothing the boy owned, and yet he didn't hesitate. He removed it and folded it carefully in half. The air-conditioning vent above the VIP table gave a low, chilly sigh. Eli stepped closer, lifting the hoodie and draping it gently over the billionaire's legs. The fabric fell softly, as almost tenderly, across Donovan's lap, settling into the creases of his coat like a quiet promise of warmth. From the doorway, Marcus felt something in his chest twist. Fear, yes, but also something else, something heavy and heartbreaking. Eli had always been this way, a small boy with a wide-open heart in a world that rarely knew what to do with such purity. Marcus had spent years trying to protect that innocence from being misunderstood, twisted, or punished. Yet here Eli was, risking everything just to make an old stranger less cold. A soft glow from the table lamp illuminated the boy's face. His eyes were gentle, his brows lifted with concern, his lips pressed together with a seriousness far beyond his 8 years. In that warm light, he looked like a child who had never known cruelty, though Marcus knew that wasn't true. Eli stepped back to examine his work, head tilted with earnest satisfaction. Then a sharp gasp sliced through the quiet. A server walking past had glimpsed the scene and stopped abruptly, eyes wide. Her tray tilted, clattering ice cubes onto the carpet. The sound made Marcus flinch. Eli froze. "What is he doing in there?" she whispered harshly, panic rising in her voice. Before Marcus could move, before he could shield his child or explain, the manager appeared behind the server, his face tightening like a fist. He began to open his mouth, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the hoodie on the billionaire's lap. Maybe it was the money neatly stacked beside the wallet. Maybe it was the child's trembling form. Whatever it was, it held him silent for half a second. Long enough for Donovan Hale's fingers to twitch. But long enough for Eli to notice and step back even farther. Long enough for Marcus to realize everything was spiraling beyond his control. He took a single step into the room. "Eli," he said softly, urgently, "come here." The boy didn't move. He looked at his father, then at the old man, then at the wallet on the table, now tidy, the bills no longer scattered like accusation. "Daddy, I was just helping," he whispered, voice small but steady. Marcus felt his throat tighten. "I know, baby, I know. Come back to me now." Eli's eyes flicked to the hoodie on Donovan's lap. But he was cold. Marcus's knees weakened. No lecture, no scolding could have carried more power than the simple sincerity in his son's voice. He took another slow step forward, hands raised in a calming gesture, as afraid to make any sudden movement that might be read the wrong way. Behind him, the manager took in a sharp breath. The server clasped her hands over her mouth. Marcus's heart hammered. Everything was trembling on the edge of something he couldn't yet name. Then, from the chair, a soft groan broke the room's stillness. Donovan Hale shifted, his hand brushing the hoodie, his eyelids fluttering as though waking from the deepest sleep he'd had in years. Marcus froze. Eli froze. Even the lights seemed to hold their breath. The billionaire's eyes began to open. Slowly. Heavily. Like the world itself was about to change. Donovan Hale's eyelids lifted by fractions, the way old doors open when they haven't been touched in years. His pupils struggled to focus, his breath catching in his throat as the cool air brushed over him. But his fingers twitched again, this time finding the soft fabric laid across his lap. The faded hoodie, Eli's hoodie. Marcus's heart stopped. Eli didn't move an inch. For a moment, There was only the sound of the air conditioner humming, stirring the edges of the scattered napkins. Donovan's gaze drifted downward, settling on the small garment covering his legs. He blinked slowly, his confusion soft and foggy, as if waking from a dream he'd rather not leave. But the world didn't give him time to understand. The manager shoved past Marcus, his shoes squeaking sharply against the floor. He pointed a shaking finger at Eli. "Hey! Step away from him!" His voice cracked the air like a whip. Eli flinched so hard the toy car in his hand slipped and clattered against the floor. The small metallic sound echoed louder than it should have, bouncing off the dim walls of the VIP room. The boy's lower lip trembled, his eyes darting to Marcus. The server beside the manager gasped. "The wallet! Look at the wallet!" Marcus turned. The wallet lay open on the table, the bills neatly stacked beside it, placed there by small hands with good intentions. But to anyone who hadn't seen what happened, it told a different story. Or rather, it invited one. The manager stormed forward, grabbing Eli by the upper arm, not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to frighten. "I knew it," he hissed. "I knew this kid would try something. You people always—" "Hey!" Marcus stepped in front of him so fast the manager stumbled backward. "Don't you lay hands on my son." The manager's eyes widened, more in outrage than fear. Your son was stealing money off the table." "He wasn't stealing anything," Marcus said, voice low and trembling, caught between fury and disbelief. "He was cleaning it up. Ask him. He was just helping." "Oh, helping?" The manager laughed sharply. "Is that what you call crawling in here behind my back? Touching a billionaire's money? This is theft, Reed. You know exactly what this looks like." Behind Marcus, Eli whispered, "Daddy, I didn't take it. I didn't. I was just putting it back." "I know, baby," Marcus said, keeping his eyes locked on the manager. But the man didn't care. He never cared. His face twisted with the confidence of someone used to being believed over people like Marcus. "You're done here. Both of you. I'm calling the police." Eli let out a small, unbroken sound, the kind children make when their world suddenly turns dark in a way they can't understand. His eyes filled with tears as he clung to Marcus's pant leg. "Please," Eli sobbed quietly. "I wasn't taking it. I saw it fall. He was cold. I just wanted to make him warm." The room seemed to tilt. Even the server paused, the edge in her expression softening for half a second. But the manager didn't budge. His jaw tightened, and his hand reached for his phone. Marcus lifted a hand. "Don't you dare call anyone." His voice cracked under the weight of humiliation and helpless anger. "My son did nothing wrong." "You expect me to believe that?" The manager snapped. "Look at him. Look at where he's standing. Look at the money. This is exactly what—" A groan interrupted him. Soft, weak, strained, the room fell silent. Donovan Hale shifted again, his hand brushing the hoodie, his fingers curling faintly around the fabric. His chin lifted an inch, then another. His eyes cracked open, their pale blue glinting under the muted light. But before he could speak, the manager rushed to fill the moment with his own story. "Mr. Hale, thank goodness," he sputtered. "I caught this child trying to take your money. I'm calling security right now. Don't worry, sir, we'll handle this. We won't let anyone take advantage of—" Eli broke. "I didn't steal," he cried out, tears streaking down his cheeks. "I didn't. I put it back. I put it all back. I gave him my hoodie because he looked cold." The boy's voice cracked in half. Marcus felt something in his chest shatter. He knelt beside his son, pulling him close. "It's okay, Eli. Daddy's right here." But the damage was done. The accusation hung in the air like smoke, thick and choking. Marcus wanted to stand, to shout, to demand they stop talking about his child that way. But he stayed on his knees, holding the boy who had done nothing but show kindness in a world determined to twist it. The manager stepped closer, emboldened. I should have trusted my gut. This is exactly... Clatter. The toy car skidded across the floor again, as Eli's small hands trembled uncontrollably. The room felt too big for him, the lights too bright, the eyes too sharp. He whispered, voice cracking, "If you think I took it, you can have this." He reached down with shaking fingers, retrieving the toy car and placing it on the table beside the wallet. "It's the only thing I have. I don't want trouble. Oh, just don't be mad." Marcus's breath left him all at once. A hollow wind punched from his lungs. The little silver car, dented and worn, sat there under the yellow lamp, an offering no child should ever have to make. The manager stared at it, paused, but not long enough. He reached for his phone again. His thumb hovered. And then, a voice, quiet but firm, cut through everything. "Stop!" It came from the chair, from the old man who moments before had been asleep and unaware. Donovan Hale lifted his head fully this time, and the look in his eyes wasn't confusion. It was recognition. It was awareness. It was the unmistakable expression of a man who had been awake longer than anyone realized, and he had seen far more than anyone expected. Donovan Hale's gaze moved slowly around the room, lingering on details no one imagined he'd have noticed. The scattered bills now neatly stacked, the faded hoodie warming his legs, the trembling child clutching his father's pant leg, and the dented toy car resting beside his wallet like a fragile confession. His voice emerged rough, quiet, but clear. "I wasn't asleep." The manager froze in mid-breath. The server's hands slipped from her mouth. Marcus felt Eli's grip tighten. The only sound was the soft hum of the ceiling vent stirring the folds of the billionaire's coat. Donovan shifted in his seat and winced slightly, as though waking had cost him some small piece of strength. He lifted the hoodie with slow, deliberate fingers. "Who put this on me?" Eli's breath shuddered in his small chest. Marcus opened his mouth to answer, but the manager stepped forward too quickly. "Sir, this boy was..." "Not you," Donovan interrupted, turning his gaze on the manager with a sharpness that sliced through the man's rehearsed confidence. "The boy, let him speak." Eli's thin shoulders curled inward. He looked at Marcus, then at the old man, then at the floor where his toy car gleamed faintly in the warm light. His voice came out small but steady, a child's attempt at courage. "You were shaking. I thought maybe you were cold." For a heartbeat, the world seemed to stop breathing. Donovan blinked slowly, the kind of blink that holds back something deeper than tears. A memory, perhaps. A loneliness. A longing. Then he lowered the hoodie back onto his lap, smoothing it with one hand. "And the money?" he asked gently. Eli swallowed hard, his voice trembling. "It fell. I put it back." The manager barked out. "Sir, you can't possibly believe..." Donovan lifted one hand, palm out, silencing him. The old man's fingers trembled slightly, but his authority did not. His pale blue eyes rested on Eli again. "You stacked this?" "Yes, sir." The boy's small chin quivered, and Marcus's heart tore in two watching him try to stand steady in a storm he never asked for. "I didn't mean any trouble," Eli whispered. The manager scoffed loudly. "Trouble is exactly what..." That was when Eli broke. Not loudly, not with a scream, just a soft, shattering sound as his composure crumbled. Tears spilled over his cheeks, sliding down with the kind of helplessness only childhood knows. He stepped forward, lifted the dented toy car with both hands, and held it out like an offering. "You can have this," he whispered. It's all I have. I wasn't trying to take anything. I don't want you mad." Marcus felt the air leave his lungs, like someone had punched him from the inside. Seeing his son, his bright, gentle boy, offer up the last link to his past, it cut deeper than any insult, deeper than any accusation. It was the instinct of a child trying to make peace in a world that shouldn't demand such sacrifices from small hands. Donovan stared at the toy car. The metal was scratched. One wheel was bent. The paint had faded to dull gray. Yet in the soft glow of the VIP lamp, it looked like something sacred, a symbol of innocence being laid at the feet of misunderstanding. The manager shook his head. "This is ridiculous. He's faking." "You will be quiet," Donovan said, not raising his voice but somehow silencing the room with the weight of a lifetime behind the words. He turned his attention back to Eli. "Why give me this?" Eli sniffled hard, wiping his nose with the back of his sleeve. "'Cause Daddy said some people like to be alone. And you looked alone. So I didn't want you mad at me, or sad. And I didn't take your money. I promise." Donovan inhaled, a shaky breath that rattled slightly in his chest. Slowly, painfully, he reached for the toy. His fingers closed around it with a care that belonged to someone handling something precious. Marcus watched, stunned and humbled by the sight. The toy car, the hoodie, the stack of bills, the tears streaking Eli's face, the old man's trembling hand brushing warmth into cold air, a picture that felt too delicate for the harshness of life. Eli took a step back, breathing unevenly. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "If you want the hoodie back, I can take it." Donovan shook his head. "Oh no," he said softly. "It's the warmest thing in this room." The manager opened his mouth to protest, but Donovan fixed him with a stare that shut him down instantly. Marcus knelt, pulling Eli into his arms, feeling the boy shiver against him. "You didn't do anything wrong," he whispered into his hair. "None of this is your fault." Eli pressed his face into Marcus's shirt. "Daddy, I was scared." "I know, baby. I know." Donovan watched them quietly, his expression unreadable. Something softened behind his eyes. Something weary. Something longing. Something that recognized goodness when he saw it. After a moment, he spoke again. "You need to leave us," he said to the manager. "Now." "But sir." "Now." The manager swallowed, color draining from his face. He signaled to the server, and both of them backing out of the room as if the air itself had changed. The door clicked shut. Only 3 people remained: an old man who had seen too much, a father who had lost too much, and a boy who had given too much. Donovan leaned back in his chair, clutching the worn toy car, and let out a long breath. "Now," he murmured, eyes drifting between father and son, "I think it's time we talk about what really happened here." And in that quiet room, under the warm glow of a single lamp, the night took its first irreversible turn. Marcus felt Eli press closer to him, the boy's small fingers clutching at his shirt, as though bracing himself for another blow. The air in the VIP room shifted, no longer tense in the way a storm is, but heavy in the way truth can be when it finally demands to be heard. Well, the soft hum of the restaurant outside felt distant, muffled, as though the world had stepped back to give this moment space. Donovan Hale adjusted himself in the leather chair, his breath coming slow and uneven. Age had etched deep grooves around his mouth and along his brow, but now his expression held a sharp clarity. He looked at Eli's toy car in his hand, turning it gently between his fingers, the metal catching fragments of the amber light. "I have been awake for quite some time," he said, voice low but steady. "Long enough to see more than any of you thought." Marcus swallowed, unsure what the old man meant. His instinct screamed to defend his son again, to rise up and shield him from whatever came next. But something in Donovan's tone held him still, something not harsh, not accusing, something searching. Donovan continued, "I saw the money fall from my wallet. My hands aren't as steady as they used to be. I meant to close it, but sleep came over me faster than I expected." His gaze rested on Eli. "I saw you kneel down, son. I saw how carefully you picked up each bill. I saw you stack them in order, like it mattered that someone else's things be kept safe." Eli sniffled, blinking up at him. "I didn't want to lose it." "I know," Donovan said softly. He lifted the hoodie next, laying it across his knees again, as if reminding himself of its warmth. "And I felt the cold long before you walked into this room. These old bones don't hold heat the way they should." He paused, the weight of years pressing into his voice. "But I felt your hoodie when you covered me. I felt the warmth of kindness before I opened my eyes. Not many people give these days, especially not something of their own." Marcus felt emotion rush up his throat, tightening it. The old man's eyes shifted to the manager's closed door, then back to Eli. "I heard the accusations. I heard the fear in your voice. I heard the shame you shouldn't have had to carry." Eli lowered his eyes, cheeks still wet. Then Donovan turned fully toward Marcus, his pale blue gaze sharper than before. "And I heard you defend him, even when no one believed you." Marcus breathed in shakily. "He didn't do anything wrong," he said, voice cracking. "He was just being himself." "A good boy," Donovan finished for him. "A boy with more heart than most grown men I've met." The room fell into a soft silence. Eli shifted shyly, his fingers brushing the table's edge. Donovan leaned forward with effort, and placing the toy car gently back into the boy's hands. "This," he said, "is something you should never give away." Eli's lips trembled. "But I thought he was mad. I didn't want him mad." Donovan's expression softened in the way a father might look at a child he wished he could have raised. "I wasn't mad," he murmured. "I was surprised and grateful. It has been a long time since anyone did something for me without wanting something in return." Marcus felt the tremor in his son ease slightly. He brushed Eli's cheek with his thumb, wiping away the last tear. Donovan watched the small gesture, something wistful flickering across his tired features. Then he shifted again, looking toward the door. "Call the manager in," he said. Panic shot through Marcus. "Sir, please, don't punish him on our account." Donovan raised a trembling hand. "I'm not punishing you." "No, I mean, he'll twist this. He'll make things worse." The old man shook his head. "I won't allow that." Footsteps approached as the server cracked the door open hesitantly, having heard the summons. The manager followed, face pinched and ready to defend himself. "Mr. Hale, I assure you—" "Enough," Donovan said quietly. The single word landed with the weight of a gavel. The manager froze, swallowing hard. "I saw everything," Donovan continued, voice firm. "The boy wasn't stealing. Your assumptions were." The manager's mouth opened, then closed again. "And laying hands on a child?" Donovan added, his tone turning colder. "I may be old, but I know improper conduct when I see it." The manager wilted slightly, and his posture curling inward like a reprimanded child. Donovan turned toward Marcus. "Sir, I want to apologize to you and your son. No one should be treated like that." Marcus blinked rapidly. No one of Donovan's stature had ever spoken to him that way. Directly, respectfully, sincerely. "Thank you," he said quietly. "But we really don't want trouble." "You didn't bring trouble," Donovan said. "Trouble found you." He struggled a little, gripping the armrests, his breath catching. Marcus instinctively stepped forward, steadying him by the elbow until Donovan settled back down. "Are you all right?" Marcus asked. The old man gave a small, weary smile. "Just tired," he whispered. "Tired of a lot of things." The manager hovered uselessly, unsure whether to defend himself or flee. Donovan dismissed him with a nod toward the door. "Oh, leave us." A moment later, the room belonged to just the three of them again. Donovan exhaled, sounding older than before, as though the truth had cost him energy he couldn't spare. But his eyes stayed warm, fixed on the boy who had unknowingly changed the direction of the night. He placed a hand over the hoodie still resting on his lap. "This," he said softly, "is the kindest thing anyone has done for me in a very long time." Eli smiled a tiny, shy smile. And Donovan Hale, billionaire, widower, feared by boardrooms and forgotten by his own family, let a long silence settle over them before he spoke again. "Now that the noise is gone," he said, "we can finally talk about what comes next." The lamp flickered gently, as though leaning closer to listen. The night, once frigid with fear, warmed, just slightly, around the edges. And for the first time, Marcus wondered if this encounter was not a disaster, but the beginning of something none of them could yet imagine. Donovan Hale rested his hands together, fingers interlaced, his breath steadying, as though preparing himself for a truth he hadn't spoken aloud in years. The faint glow of the lamp softened the lines on his face, revealing a tired man beneath the polished legend the world believed him to be. "You know," he began slowly, "when I was a younger man, I thought wealth would buy me safety, respect, even love." He rubbed his thumb along the spine of Eli's dented toy car. "But it didn't. Not really. It just bought silence around me. Distance." His eyes drifted toward the darkened window, reflecting the faint streetlights of Atlanta flickering in the drizzle. "And over time, people stopped seeing me. Well, they only saw what they could gain." Marcus listened carefully, the weight of the moment settling over him like a gentle but undeniable pressure. He had heard stories about men like Donovan, rich, powerful, surrounded by everything except the one thing money couldn't secure: sincerity. But hearing it from the man himself, that was different. Eli shifted closer, his small hand brushing the billionaire's coat sleeve. "I didn't know you were rich," he said simply. "You just looked cold." Donovan smiled, a weary, aching smile, as if a door inside him creaked open after years of being shut. "Exactly," he whispered. "You saw me, not the myth." The boy's innocence washed through the room like a soft, warm breeze. Marcus felt something break gently inside him, a mixture of pride and sorrow. His son's heart, so pure, so immediate, yet had reached a man the world had long forgotten how to approach. Donovan inhaled as though gathering himself. "My own family doesn't check on me like that. Not anymore." His tone darkened slightly, shadowed by memories. "They visit when they want something, not because they care." He paused, rubbing a spot on his chest as though easing a quiet ache. "When you placed that hoodie on me," he said, turning to Eli, "do you know what I felt?" Eli shook his head. "Warmth," Donovan replied. "Not just the fabric, the gesture. I felt something I haven't felt in a long time." He looked at Marcus. "And that's what money can't buy. A heart that cares." Silence settled in, thick but gentle, like a blanket of snow muting the world. Marcus cleared his throat, unsure how to respond. "Sir, my boy didn't do it for anything. He's always been that way. Gives first, asks nothing back." Donovan's eyes softened. "I know. That's why I asked you two to stay." He shifted slightly, wincing at the movement. "I want to tell you something something I haven't said aloud. The man's body trembled faintly, and Marcus instinctively reached out, steadying his shoulder. Donovan didn't brush him off. Instead, he leaned into the support with the trust of someone unfamiliar with being helped. "I've lived a long life," he said quietly. "Made more money than any one man needs. But in all that time, I've never met a child who would give up something precious." His gaze moved to the toy car in his hand. "Just to make things right." Eli's voice lifted barely above a whisper. "I didn't want to get Daddy in trouble." Donovan's jaw tightened with emotion. "And yet you offered the one thing you loved. That—" He broke off, his voice trembling. "That tells me everything I need to know about you." The lamplight shimmered over the table, catching on the tiny scratches of the toy car. The air carried a heaviness that wasn't pain but recognition, a moment when two very different worlds brushed against each other and found unexpected familiarity. Donovan straightened slightly in his chair, a hint of renewed clarity in his eyes. "Marcus?" "Yes, sir?" "I'm going to make you a proposal tonight," he said. "But before I do, I need to know one thing." He turned his gaze on Marcus, steady and intent. "Do you understand the value of what your son gave me?" Marcus's voice was soft, reverent. "Yes, I do. It wasn't just a toy, it was—" He swallowed hard. "Oh, his father gave it to him before he passed." Donovan nodded slowly. "Then you know why it moved me so deeply." Eli leaned forward, earnest curiosity shining in his eyes. "Are you okay now?" The old man chuckled, a tired but genuine sound. "Better than I was an hour ago." He rested his hand on the hoodie again. "You two changed the direction of this night before you even realized it." The restaurant outside hummed faintly. Voices, dishes, the soft rain pattering against the windows. But inside, the VIP room felt wrapped in something intimate, fragile, and extraordinary. Donovan looked between father and son with a newfound resolve. "This world has been unkind to both of us in different ways," he said. "But tonight, I'd like to change that." Eli tilted his head. "How?" Donovan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he drew a deep breath, the kind that precedes a life-altering truth. "We'll talk about that very soon," he murmured. "But first, there's something I need to ask of you both, something important." Marcus felt his pulse quicken, not with fear this time, but with the quiet tremor of possibility. The old man leaned forward, the lamplight casting a gentle glow around him. "Stay with me a little longer," he said softly. "There's more you need to hear." Outside, the drizzle softened, tapping rhythmically against the glass like a steady heartbeat. Inside, the night leaned in, readying itself for yet another unexpected turn. Marcus felt the shift before Donovan even spoke. The way the old man's posture straightened, the way his eyes sharpened with a clarity not often seen in someone his age. Eli sensed it too. He stopped fidgeting, yet resting the toy car gently on his lap, watching Donovan with quiet curiosity. The billionaire took a slow breath, his fingers tracing the edge of Eli's folded hoodie still on his knees. "You know," he began, voice carrying the soft rasp of age, "I've spent decades surrounded by people who smile at me but never look at me. People who want access, favors, or a signature. But tonight, I saw something different." He looked at Marcus. "I saw a father who protected his child even when he had no power in the room." Then he looked at Eli, and I saw a child who protected a stranger with all the power in the world. Eli blinked. "I just didn't want you to be cold." A thin smile touched Donovan's lips. "That's exactly why I need to talk to you both." Marcus's pulse picked up. He wasn't sure if fear or hope was climbing up his spine, but he felt the tremor of something big approaching. Donovan shifted, resting his cane against the chair, and leaned forward slightly. "I haven't been well," he admitted quietly. "These past few years have taken more from me than they've given. And in all that time, no one has offered me kindness with no strings attached. Until tonight." Marcus swallowed. "Sir, we didn't mean to intrude, or—" "You didn't intrude," Donovan interrupted gently. "You interrupted a life that had grown far too quiet." He paused, searching for words heavy enough to hold what came next. "I want to help Eli." Eli straightened, his eyes widening. "Help me?" Donovan nodded. "Your father told me that car came from your dad, the one who passed away, and yet you were willing to give it up, hoping it would fix a misunderstanding that wasn't even your fault. Not that kind of heart. It deserves a future that matches its goodness." He turned to Marcus, his expression earnest. "Let me pay for his schooling, all of it. Every grade, every book, every expense, from now until college." Marcus froze. The words didn't register at first. They floated in the air like something too fragile to touch, too good, too impossible. "Sir." "What?" Marcus managed, voice cracking. "You can't. Why would you do something like that?" "Because your son reminded me that goodness still exists," Donovan whispered. "And because I want to be near it, learn from it, be reminded of what matters." Eli's face lit with something soft and confused. "You want to visit us?" "No, son," Donovan chuckled. "I want you to visit me." Eli tilted his head. "Like, at your house?" "If you'd like," Donovan said. "Even if it's just once a week. You sit with me. Tell me about school, about life. Remind me of the things I've forgotten." Marcus felt his throat tighten again. This offer was too large, too life-changing. And yet the sincerity in Donovan's tired eyes made it clear. He wasn't playing games. He wasn't pitying them. He wasn't trying to buy anything. He was asking for connection. "Sir," Marcus said slowly, "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Donovan murmured, "and let me do one good thing with whatever time I have left." Eli looked up at Marcus, eyes hopeful, unsure. "Daddy, can I? I like him." Marcus's breath broke. He had known nights filled with fear, with hunger, with the bitter taste of being seen as less. He had known the kind of exhaustion that came not from working hard, but from being judged harder. And he had known loss that left no room for miracles. And yet here one was. Still, he needed to be sure. "What exactly do you want from us?" Marcus asked quietly. Donovan did not flinch. "Nothing, except honesty, and the chance to be part of something real again." He paused, his voice thinning slightly. "I didn't come here tonight to find a family. But kindness has a way of appearing in places you least expect." The room fell silent. The drizzle outside slowed to a delicate whisper. The warm glow of the lamp softened the air around them, bathing the three in a gentle gold. Then the sudden scrape of a shoe shattered the quiet. The VIP door swung open, and a tall man in an expensive suit stepped inside without knocking. His face was stern, sharp around the eyes, carrying the certainty of someone used to being obeyed. "Dad," he said, as ignoring Marcus and Eli entirely. "We need to talk." Donovan closed his eyes briefly, as if bracing for impact. "Connor, not now." But Connor Hale didn't wait. He looked directly at Marcus, then at Eli, and something in his expression hardened. "Who are these people? And why are they in here with you?" The tension snapped back, tightening the air like a wire pulled too thin. Marcus instinctively moved closer to Eli. Donovan exhaled heavily, pain slipping across his face. "I invited them," he said. Connor's eyebrows shot up. You what? Eli pressed into Marcus's side. The warmth of a miracle had barely settled before being chilled by new shadows. Connor took 2 steps forward, lowering his voice but not his hostility. Dad, we've talked about this. You can't just... I said, not now, Donovan barked, louder than before, though the strength behind it wavered. Connor's eyes narrowed at Marcus. Whatever you think you're doing here, whatever story you've spun, you won't get away with it. Marcus stiffened. We didn't... Connor cut him off, voice icy. Save it. He turned to his father. We're leaving. Tonight. No, Donovan whispered, his voice suddenly frail. No, Connor. I'm staying. Over my dead body, Connor snapped. The room froze again. This time the warmth did not return. Not yet. Not while the storm had only just begun to gather. Connor Hale stood framed by the doorway, tall and rigid, his silhouette outlined sharply against the corridor's cooler light. Behind him, servers froze mid-step, sensing the tension radiating off him like static before lightning. But his polished shoes clicked once on the wooden floor as he stepped farther into the VIP room, the authority in his presence suffocating the fragile warmth Donovan had allowed to grow. Eli clutched his toy car tighter and leaned into Marcus's side. Marcus placed a steadying hand on the boy's back, trying to shield him from the hostility rolling off the man who had just barged in. Connor's gaze flicked over Marcus and Eli with thinly veiled disdain, quick, dismissive, cutting. Dad, what exactly is going on here? Why are you sitting with... His hand gestured vaguely, as though the words refused to form. With them? Donovan exhaled, slow and strained. Connor, please, sit down. We were having a conversation. Connor didn't sit. Instead, he stepped closer to Marcus, his jaw tightening. And what conversation could you possibly be having with a kitchen worker and a child? What business do they have being anywhere near you? Marcus felt a heat rise under his skin. Not from shame, but from the familiar sting of being judged in a single glance. He kept calm for Eli's sake, but his voice carried quiet steel. We didn't barge in here. Your father asked us to stay. Connor's laugh was dry, sharp, hollow. Of course he did. That's how it starts, isn't it? Someone sees an opportunity. Someone senses weakness. He crouched slightly to glance at Eli, the condescension sharp as glass. Someone exploits kindness. Eli recoiled, his breath catching in his throat. Enough! Donovan's voice cracked across the space louder than before, though the strength behind it shook faintly. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, well, I know exactly what's happening, Connor shot back. You're vulnerable, and they saw it. This is what happens when you wander around without your security team. People start circling. Marcus stood tall now, one hand protecting Eli. Sir, we didn't circle anyone. Your father dropped his money. My son picked it up. That's the truth. Connor's eyes narrowed. Your son? That boy was touching my father's wallet and letting him wander into a room like this? That's irresponsible parenting at best. Eli's eyes filled instantly, his small hand trembling around the toy car. Marcus felt the insult hit like a blow, but he swallowed hard, forcing composure into his voice. Don't talk to him like that. Connor's expression hardened even further. I'll speak however I need to. Donovan slammed his palm against the armrest. Not hard, but firm enough to jolt the room. Connor, stop this at once! The old man leaned forward, gripping his cane to steady himself. His breath wavered as he stood, and Marcus instinctively moved to help him. Donovan nodded gratefully, then faced his son. These two did nothing wrong, Donovan said. In fact, they did more good tonight than you have in years. Connor stiffened. Excuse me? You heard me. Donovan's voice carried both sorrow and a strange finality. They showed me kindness you haven't shown me in a long time. Connor's jaw clenched. Dad, that's unfair. I take care of you. You take care of my assets, Donovan corrected. Not me. The silence that followed was thick, nearly suffocating. Eli peeked up at Donovan, worry clouding his small face. Marcus held Eli close, uncertain where this confrontation would go next. But Connor regained his composure, straightening his suit coat. This stops now. You're leaving with me. And we're discussing your decisions with the board first thing tomorrow. No, Donovan said quietly. I'm not leaving. Yes, you are, Connor snapped. For your safety. This boy made me feel safer than you have, Donovan countered, voice soft but unshakable. Marcus felt shock ripple through him. Connor took a step closer, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Dad, you have no idea what you're doing. You are being manipulated. Eli whimpered and hid his face. Marcus felt something inside him break. Anger, grief, helplessness. But he kept control. We don't want anything from your father, he said firmly. We never did. Connor ignored him completely, focusing solely on Donovan. I won't allow strangers to worm their way into your life. I've seen this before. People pretending to be kind just to squeeze their way into your estate. Donovan's knees wobbled slightly. Marcus grabbed his elbow to support him. The old man let out a shaky breath. Connor, Donovan said, voice cracking. You don't understand. This is not about money. This is about... Spare me, Connor cut in. The world is full of sob stories. You're too trusting in your old age. That was the moment the last thread snapped. Donovan's face flushed, his breath catching as a painful cough shook his frame. He grabbed at his chest, struggling to steady himself. Marcus held him upright, alarm surging through him. Sir? Easy. Breathe slow. Eli stared in terror. Is he okay, Daddy? Connor stepped back, suddenly unsure, his confidence fracturing. Dad? It's Dad. Are you all right? Donovan waved weakly. I'm fine. I'm fine. But his voice trembled. His hand shook violently on the cane. You need to sit, Marcus urged gently. Donovan obeyed, trembling as Marcus helped him back into the chair. The old man's breathing slowed, but the effort had clearly drained what little strength he had. Connor ran a hand through his hair, pacing once before pointing a sharp finger at Marcus. This isn't over, he hissed. I'll find out what game you're playing. There's no game, Marcus said, his voice steady and calm despite the turmoil inside him. Just a child trying to help. Connor's glare slid to Eli again, cold, resentful, unyielding. I warned you, he said softly, almost like a threat. People who get close to my father never walk away clean. Eli pressed himself deeper into Marcus's side. Get out! Donovan whispered suddenly, voice fragile but forceful. Connor, get out, now! Connor stared at him, disbelief melting into bitterness. You'll regret this, he muttered. Then he turned sharply and walked out, letting the door slam behind him. The room fell into stillness so complete that even the rain outside seemed to hesitate. Marcus exhaled shakily. Eli clung to his hand. And Donovan Hale, pale, trembling, exhausted, closed his eyes for a moment, as though trying to steady not just his breath, but the entire course of his life. When he opened them again, his voice was strained, thin, but resolute. I'm so sorry you had to see that, he murmured. And I'm even more sorry that I wasn't stronger. Marcus knelt beside him. You were strong. You told the truth. Donovan nodded faintly. I'm going to fix this. Not all of it. Eli touched his hand gently. Are you going to be okay? Donovan looked at the boy, eyes softening despite the storm raging around him. "I don't know," he whispered, "but I know one thing." He squeezed Eli's small fingers. "Tonight is not the end of this story." And somewhere outside, thunder rolled softly, not angry this time, but as if the sky itself acknowledged that something irreversible had begun. For a long moment, no one spoke. The VIP room, once the center of a chaotic misunderstanding, had fallen into a heavy, reflective hush. Rain tapped against the window in a gentle rhythm, washing the night clean but not enough to erase what had just unfolded. Donovan Hale sat slumped back in his chair, catching his breath, looking far older than he had an hour before. Eli remained close to Marcus. His small fingers looped around his father's thumb like an anchor. Marcus bent slightly toward the old man. "Sir, do you need a doctor?" Donovan shook his head slowly. "Not yet," he murmured. "Just a moment of quiet. The boy's kindness did more for me tonight than any prescription." He looked at the half-finished plate of cornbread and fried chicken on the nearby table. The plate had gone cold during all the commotion, but Donovan nodded toward it anyway. "Was this yours?" Marcus straightened. "Yes, sir. I made that." "Then I'd like to try it," Donovan said, with a soft smile. "If it's not too much trouble." Marcus blinked in surprise. "Of course not." He carried the plate back to the table, reheating the dish quickly and bringing it to Donovan. The old man lifted a piece of chicken with effort, taking a slow bite, but his eyes fluttered halfway shut, not in fatigue this time, but in appreciation. "This," he said, touching the edge of the plate with a trembling finger, "tastes like something made with care, something made by someone who remembers where they came from." Marcus felt warmth rise in his chest, not pride, but something closer to dignity restored. "My mama taught me," he said softly. "Food is love where I'm from, even when you don't have much." Donovan nodded. "She taught you well." He ate another piece, taking his time. The storm inside him seemed to settle a little. The room had turned from battlefield to sanctuary, lit only by the soft, golden lamp tucked in the corner. Eli watched closely. "Do you feel better now?" "A little," Donovan said, reaching out and brushing the boy's hand gently. "You gave me warmth when I didn't ask for it. Oh, now your father gives me warmth in another way. Both of you," his voice softened, "both of you remind me that good still exists." He reached into his coat pocket and retrieved the toy car. The metal glimmered faintly in the lamplight. "This little thing," he whispered, turning it over in his hands, "looks worn, loved, and important." Eli sat up straighter. "My dad gave it to me. I didn't want to lose it." "That's why you must keep it," Donovan said. "Some things are too precious to trade, even when the world misunderstands your intentions." He gently placed the toy car back into Eli's palms and closed the boy's fingers over it. "Never give away your heart to ease someone else's judgment." Eli nodded, eyes shining. Then Donovan lifted a small screwdriver from his pocket, a tool Marcus hadn't noticed him take out earlier. One of your wheels is bent," he said. "Mind if I fix it?" Eli glanced at Marcus, who nodded. The billionaire hunched slightly forward, working the tool with surprising delicacy. The light glinted off the tiny metal piece as he tightened, straightened, and adjusted. When he finished, he rolled the toy back and forth across the table. The wheel turned smoothly. "There," Donovan smiled. "Good as new." Eli's jaw dropped. "Thank you, sir." Marcus felt something sting behind his eyes. The old man wasn't just repairing a toy. He was mending a moment, a wound, a world where his son had been accused and shamed for a kindness too pure to defend itself. Donovan leaned back, exhausted by the small effort, but clearly pleased. He inhaled slowly, then whispered, "Marcus, tonight was hard." But it showed me something I needed to see. Marcus pulled Eli onto his lap. What's that, sir? Donovan's gaze drifted toward the window, where the drizzle had softened to a silver mist. That time is catching up with me. His voice cracked, thin and vulnerable. I'm not ashamed to admit. I don't have as many nights left as I used to. The words hit Marcus like cold water. Sir, don't talk like that. No, Donovan smiled faintly. I'm not afraid. I've lived long, too long in some ways. But knowing I don't have forever is what makes tonight so important. He paused, fingertips resting on the hoodie across his lap. You two walked into my life at precisely the right moment, and I don't believe in coincidences. Marcus held his breath, unsure what the old man was building toward. I meant what I said earlier, Donovan continued. I want to help your son. I want to invest in his future. But more than that, I want to be part of it, if you'll allow me. Eli tilted his head. Like a friend? Donovan chuckled softly. Something like that. Another moment of silence passed. This one deeper yet strangely gentle. A silence filled not with fear, but with the weight of possibility. Then Donovan's expression shifted, just slightly, but enough for Marcus to notice. A flicker of pain, a tremor in his hand, a shadow crossing his features. You okay? Marcus asked quickly. Donovan nodded weakly. Just tired. All this talking. He exhaled sharply. It takes more out of me than it used to. He placed a hand over Marcus's, gripping with surprising emotion. But hear me, whatever comes after tonight, you two are not alone. Not anymore. Eli crawled closer, placing his small hand over Donovan's. You're not alone either, Mr. Hale. Those words, simple, honest, undeserved, made Donovan's breath catch. His eyes glistened, not with illness but with something far older, a longing finally met. He whispered, voice breaking, Thank you, son. Marcus's throat tightened. The storm outside had quieted completely now, leaving only the soft whisper of wet pavement and distant traffic. And in that calm, the weight of what had begun, this fragile, unexpected bond, hung in the air like a truth too delicate to touch. Then Donovan spoke again, barely above a whisper. There's something I need to tell you both, before it's too late. Marcus leaned in. Eli stilled. Donovan's eyes, tired but sincere, locked onto theirs. I don't have much time left, he murmured. And that changes everything. The room felt suddenly smaller, quieter, more fragile. And the night, once warmed by miracles, braced itself for the truth that was finally ready to break free. The next week unfolded like a slow, trembling breath, one Marcus never seemed to finish. The morning after the restaurant incident, life returned to routine on the surface. Buses rumbled down cracked Atlanta streets, children laughed on their way to school, and the world mindlessly spun on. Yet beneath everything, an invisible weight lingered. Something had shifted in ways Marcus couldn't name. Then, on a quiet Thursday afternoon, the shift became real. A breaking news banner flashed across every TV in the Southside Grill kitchen. Billionaire Donovan Hale hospitalized. Sources report sudden health decline. Marcus froze mid-chop, at the knife suspended in his shaking hand. He didn't know why, but panic hit him so hard his legs nearly weakened. Eli, sitting at the back with homework spread across a cardboard box, whispered, Daddy, is he gonna be okay? Marcus didn't answer. He couldn't. Not until he knew more. An hour later, he was clocking out early, telling his manager nothing more than, I have somewhere I need to be, before grabbing Eli's backpack and heading for the bus stop. The hospital stood tall against the gray afternoon sky, a cold, sterile monument of steel and glass. Inside, the air smelled of disinfectant, and quiet fear. Marcus held Eli's hand as they approached the front desk. "Donovan Hale," Marcus said softly. "We're here to see him." The receptionist's expression flickered. "Are you family?" "No," Marcus admitted. "But he asked for us. Last week." Her eyes softened with something like recognition. She gestured to a security guard. "Take them to the 11th floor, room 1124. Eli squeezed his father's hand harder. The elevator ride felt endless. Each ding felt like the echo of a closing door. When they stepped into the hallway, their footsteps softened against the polished floor. From behind one closed door came muffled crying, from another steady beeping. But outside room 1124 stood two people, Connor Hale and a lawyer in a navy suit. Connor's face hardened the moment he saw them. "No," he snapped before they even reached the doorway. "You can't be here." Eli flinched. Marcus steadied him. "We came to see Donovan." Connor stepped forward, blocking their path. "My father is in no condition to entertain manipulative strangers." "We're not manipulators," Marcus replied, voice low but steady. "He asked us to stay with him. You saw that." "Oh, I saw plenty," Connor hissed, "including how quick you were to take advantage of an old man's confusion." Eli's eyes filled instantly. "We didn't. I just wanted him warm." The lawyer placed a hand on Connor's shoulder, murmuring, "Let's—" "No," Connor snapped, shrugging him off. "They're not going inside." And then, softly, unexpectedly, the door opened from the inside. A doctor stepped out. She looked tired but resolute. She glanced between Marcus, Eli, and Connor before speaking. "Mr. Hale asked to see them." Connor's jaw clenched. "He's delusional. He doesn't know what he's saying." The doctor's voice sharpened. "His mind is clear. Well, his body is weak, but his decisions are his own." Connor stared, stunned. The doctor stepped aside, gesturing Marcus and Eli forward. "Go on. He's waiting." Marcus placed a hand on Eli's back. "Stay close, baby." Inside, the room was dim except for a single lamp glowing beside the bed. Machines hummed quietly, their gentle rhythms marking fragile life. Donovan lay propped up slightly, his face pale, his hands trembling even in stillness. But his eyes, his tired, fading eyes, lit when he saw Eli. "You came," he whispered. Eli hurried to his bedside, setting his toy car gently on the blanket near Donovan's hand. "Are you okay, Mr. Hale?" The old man smiled faintly. "Better now." Marcus moved closer, swallowing the tight ache rising in his throat. "We saw the news. We came as soon as we could." "I knew you would," Donovan murmured, and his gaze softened, drifting toward Eli. "I still have your hoodie, you know." Eli brightened through his worry. "You can keep it. Forever if you want." Donovan chuckled softly, the sound weak but warm. "That may not be long," he whispered, "but I thank you." Marcus felt his breath tighten. "Don't talk like that, sir." "Marcus," Donovan said gently, "I'm not afraid of the truth." He reached out with shaking fingers, and Eli took his hand, without hesitation. "I called my attorney yesterday," Donovan continued, eyes flickering toward the sealed envelope on his bedside table. "I made changes, important ones." The lawyer in the hall shifted but didn't interrupt. Connor, however, had stepped inside, unable to restrain himself. "Dad, please. You're not thinking clearly." Donovan turned his head, jaw tightening with quiet strength. "I've never been more clear." He looked back at Eli, at the boy who had warmed him with a hoodie, organized his fallen money, offered his last treasure without question. "You showed me what love looks like," Donovan whispered. "Not the kind that demands, the kind that gives." Eli frowned softly. "I didn't do anything big." "Oh, but you did," Donovan said. "More than you know." Then, with visible effort, he lifted the envelope. Marcus, Eli, everything is in here. Connor surged forward. Dad, no! The doctor stepped between them. Let him finish. Donovan held the envelope out. Eli looked at it first, then at his father. Daddy, what is it? Marcus didn't know, but instinct told him one thing. Their lives were about to change. Donovan's voice wavered. When I'm gone, this will explain everything. Tears welled in his eyes, tears born not of fear, but of relief. He squeezed Eli's hand one last time. You gave me back something I thought I lost, he whispered. Hope. A soft, trembling breath escaped him as his eyelids fluttered. Take care of each other, he murmured. You're family now. The room grew impossibly still. The machines beeped softly. Marcus held Eli close, heart pounding. And outside the window, the rain began again, gentle, quiet, like the sky mourning something too tender for words. For a long moment, Marcus couldn't move. The room felt paused, wrapped in a silence so deep it seemed to swallow every sound from the hallway. Machines continued their soft rhythm beside the bed, steady and calm, but Donovan Hale lay resting with his eyes closed, breathing slow, was peaceful, as if the weight he had carried for decades had finally set itself down. Eli pressed his cheek against Marcus's chest. Daddy, is he sleeping again? Marcus swallowed hard. Yeah, baby. He's resting. He didn't want to frighten his son. Not here, not now, not while the air still held the warmth of Donovan's final words. A nurse entered quietly, checked the monitors, then looked at Marcus with a gentle, knowing expression. He's comfortable, she said softly. If you'd like, you can stay a little longer. Connor stayed planted near the corner, his face pale, rigid, unreadable. He stared at the envelope in Marcus's hands, like it was a ticking device set to explode his world. The lawyer stood beside him, eyes lowered in respect rather than irritation. He too felt the gravity of what had unfolded tonight. And Marcus looked down at the envelope Donovan had given him. Heavy, sealed, his name written in a trembling but determined script. Eli tugged the sleeve of his father's shirt. Daddy, is that for us? Yes, Marcus whispered. It's for us. They stayed until the doctor gently returned, her voice calm and steady, thanking them for being there and promising to notify them of everything in the coming days. It was time to let Donovan rest in private. Time to step out of a moment that felt sacred. As they walked through the hospital's dim hallway, the lights overhead humming gently, Marcus carried Eli with one arm and the envelope pressed to his chest with the other. Connor followed behind, his footsteps stiff, sharp, brittle. When they reached the lobby, he finally spoke. This isn't over, Connor said, voice tight. Whatever he gave you, he didn't know what he was doing. Marcus stopped walking. He turned slowly, his tired eyes meeting Connor's. Sir, he said softly, your father knew exactly what he was doing. Connor scoffed, but the sound lacked conviction. He looked away, jaw tight, grief mixing with anger. You think he owed you something? A stranger? My father? Your father wasn't looking for debts, Marcus interrupted gently. He was looking for a moment of truth. He found it in a child who didn't ask for anything. Eli peeked over Marcus's shoulder. I just helped him feel warm, he said quietly. Connor flinched, not from the words, but from how pure they were. Words impossible to argue with. The lawyer approached, his tone much calmer. Mr. Hale, whatever is in that envelope, it's legally binding, and it was signed with full mental clarity. He placed a hand on Connor's arm. Your father made a choice. Connor's expression twisted. Not hatred, not even resentment. Something smaller, something sadder. Loss, perhaps. But he didn't argue again. He simply stepped back and disappeared into the elevator, leaving Marcus standing in the glow of the lobby lights, holding his son and a future he didn't yet understand. 3 days later, they sat in a polished office high above downtown Atlanta. Rain clouds drifted past the wide windows, giving the glass a silver glow. Eli swung his legs nervously from the chair, his toy car clutched tightly in one hand. Marcus didn't know how he got the strength to be here, to sit so still, to pretend he wasn't terrified of the unknown. The lawyer sat across from them, yet the envelope open on the table between them. Inside lay pages of formal signatures, official seals, and a handwritten letter addressed to Eli. But the first line the lawyer read made Marcus's world stop. In recognition of selfless kindness in a world that often forgets it, I bequeath to Eli Reed a portion of my estate, so that he may grow into the man his heart already reflects. Marcus blinked hard. What does that mean? A portion? The lawyer cleared his throat gently. Mr. Reed, Donovan Hale has left your son 30% of his company holdings, a trust fund for his education and future, and a charitable foundation under his name. The words felt impossible, heavy, unreal. Eli looked up at his father. Daddy, is that a lot? Marcus nodded but couldn't form words. The lawyer wasn't finished. Oh, he also left a personal letter for you both, he said softly. He handed it over, the paper thick, the handwriting shaky but unmistakable. Marcus read silently. Marcus, you showed strength without anger. You defended your son with dignity, and you reminded me what humility looks like. Eli, your kindness brought warmth to an old man's final days. Never stop giving. Never stop seeing people the way you saw me, not as a billionaire, but as someone who was cold. I leave these gifts not as payment, but as gratitude. You gave me back something money could never buy. Hope. Donovan Hale. Tears blurred Marcus's vision. He pulled Eli close, kissing the top of his head. Daddy, Eli whispered, does this mean he loved us? Marcus closed his eyes. Yes, baby, I think he did. The lawyer stood quietly, giving them time. The windows glowed brighter as the clouds finally began to part. Outside, the rain stopped. Light, soft, warm, golden broke through. And for the first time in a very long time, Marcus felt something new replacing the ache he had carried for years. Not fear, not shame, not hopelessness, but healing. A slow, steady sunrise inside the heart. Later, as they left the office and stepped into the fresh air, Eli held his toy car up to the sunlight. The newly repaired wheel glittered like a small silver star. Daddy, he said, smiling wide, I think Mr. Hale fixed more than just my toy. Marcus took his son's hand, squeezing gently. Yeah, baby, he murmured. He fixed a whole lot more than that. And with each step they took down the sidewalk, the world, once sharp and cold, felt warmer, kinder, but like a place where miracles didn't have to be big, just honest, just human, just enough to change a life forever. If this story touched your heart even a little, drop a simple 1 in the comments so I know you were here with us. Your one small comment helps this community grow. And if you'd like to hear more stories just like this, stories of kindness, hope, and the moments that change everything, make sure you subscribe. I've got many more waiting for you.